It was obviously an emotional Saturday night. I'm curious, you gave the guys a couple days off. Where are the emotions when you get back on Tuesday?
Again, I think I think they're in a good way. I think they're a bit disappointed with the run that we were on, winning 2 games, and it just seems like that third win is elusive. And we talked a little bit about decisions, in particular red cards and penalty kicks that we've suffered. And it's almost where there's a decision that was made and it may have not been the right decision, either your approach to the ball or your trap of the ball. And then it's almost like there's an internal, there's a moment where you can make the next best decision. And we double down on not making that decision. And I think that's cost us over the last, month and a half, really, 2 months. And so that's something that we talked about. But I think the silver lining in that game was the way we were able to press with 9 guys, get after the game, dictate the game, play a little bit more direct, which if we hadn't been playing with 9, maybe we don't go as direct in the next few games. So I think there's always something to learn from each game, but I think the mentality and the fight in the group, playing a man down for 90 plus minutes. I mean, we do 9v10, we do 8v10 for 4-minute blocks. We never do it for 90 plus minutes. And so to have the mental fortitude to withstand that type of pressure and be able to get back into the game, for me, was the takeaway from it.
Fans love to second guess everything, so they've been all over the place. And they're not united. The fans are literally all over the place. As far as you went with the 4 early, you went with the 3 in the back later. Did you think about making the change to 3 in the back earlier? Did you think about making the change to just going 3 in the back right from the get-go in the red card? Just kind of your thought process about why you went the way you did.
Yeah. So if we went 3 in the back, we'd have 2 undersized outside backs as center backs, and we are already of the smallest team we could have possibly been against their big team. So when you think about the moment when that red card occurred, again, if it occurs in the 60th minute, and the scoreline's a little different, but you know that you have to endure 90 plus minutes with 1 center back. So that for me is non-negotiable. So then at that point, then you have to take out an attacking player. And the thought behind keeping Andres on versus Luna is when you're down a man, you're always going to be able to find a counter opportunity, and what you need is stretch. What you don't get is the space in between the lines because you're down a man, and they're going to be +1 all over the field. So the spaces become more compact. So it basically nullifies anything that Luna brings to our group. And then as far as the shape, we again, like I said, we train 4-4-1 all the time. We train it all the time. I think the personnel with Chicho up there having to do a lot of the graft was going to make it very difficult to get pressure on the ball. It's not his strong suit to defend and lock in the wide channels. And so we were going to go with it at before half, but felt like it'd be a better adjustment at halftime with the board, with video, to kind of make sure everyone understands their role versus just throwing a 3 out there. But I think when we went to the 3, again, we took some risks, but again, we had 2 center backs and an outside back, whether it was Bodie on one side or Oviedo on the other, that solidified, I think, that group, and then more importantly, matched up with set pieces, which in a game when you're down a man, you're going to encounter more frequently than as if you had 10.
When you look ahead to LA, where are they going to provide a challenge, you think?
Well, I think they're going to provide the challenge just from the onset with the group. We're missing quite a few players. So I think that's going to be a challenge to start. But I think their ability to create chances and score goals is something that they've been really good at this year. Something that, again, in the final third, not giving up silly balls in possession and making good decisions in our challenges. And I think if we can gain some margins on both of those things, I think we have a group that can be defensively stout. They've struggled, giving up goals. And so I think it's just, again, how do we put them in positions to threaten and put more pressure on the back line that has been changing throughout the year for various reasons. And so I think that from an attacking standpoint and those two things defensively.
Are you going to have enough forwards to you're already smiling.
We're going to have to get creative.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get creative. And I think that's why this week in training is really important, so that we're all on the same page, because I think we're going to have to play to our strengths, to the strengths of the players in the group. You're missing Chicho, Rubio, Sava, and possibly Danny. And so there's going to be a lot of change. And so given what I just told you about LA, how do we set ourselves up to compete the right way, keep ourselves in the game, and capitalize on opportunities that we create?
I have 1,000 questions, but you may not want to answer them on camera.
Yeah.
But it seems like with Dami, he clearly doesn't move the way he used to. But he's had surgery in his mid-30s, so who would expect that? But he is poised in front of goal. And he does bring height to a team that is really height challenged. But when guys are used to playing at everybody's feet, are they going to miss the opportunity to put a ball on his forehead?
Well, I think that's why we're training this week, for that particular reason. I think, again, how do we get the most out of Dami, playing in an advanced position? How can we use his strengths to our advantage? And again, that's Dami being in and around goal. That's playing a little bit more direct. That's playing off of him. And that's putting crosses in the box. And I think if we can utilize him in that way, I think we'll bring out the best in Dami.
Yeah. Do you have enough that you can, this may be too much, but you love Anderson Julio off the bench. And his speed off the bench was like...
Electric.
Yes, exactly. For people who are coming to the first game who'd never seen RSL play, they had to be thinking, that he's faster than everybody. And he is willing to use his speed defensively, and not everybody is.
I don't think we have a choice this weekend.
Yeah.
I think we're in a position where we got to put our best group out there, and more than likely he'll be one of those guys. And again, the interesting thing about the future is that you use the past to kind of formulate a perspective as to how that game's going to go. But at any point, things can change, right? He may not have been a great starter for this group, and for not only a great starter, but is injury prone from the start. But again, I think this is an opportunity for him to maybe get off from the start and use that speed. And the one thing that we've talked about is his ability to pace himself. The reason why Ando is so electric when he comes into the game, because he's got the highest high speed and the highest sprints in the group, and he only plays 25 minutes, right? So how do you pace that so he doesn't put himself in a position where he's fatiguing, and then more importantly, put himself in a position to get injured?
Do you have any timeline on Chicho? Do you know? Or
it's week to week.
Yeah.
It's week to week. He underwent a PRP injection to expedite everything. But and he's actually a tougher. He's a tough guy. So so we're calling it week to week, and we're obviously going to be cautious, and he's going to lead the rehab as far as how he feels and when he's ready. But I think it's just an opportune time to get an injury.
Yeah. I assume at this point you draw on what you saw in April, May, June, July. We had all those midweek games, and you had 20 guys starting, and there were all sorts of combinations for all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, I think that's what this moment is for, right? There's not a guy that hasn't contributed to this team on the field, and so guys that maybe haven't started in a while will be asked to start. Guys that haven't played in a while will come in the bench and jump into the game. At the moment, I think we have 5 healthy bodies for 5 subs, and the expectation is that we'll probably use them all. So I think from my standpoint is, again, putting together a game plan that I feel we can, with the players that we have available, compete the right way. And then if we have the mental fortitude that we had in the last game, we'll have 10 guys on the field. And that's, for me, the most important part.
You'll take the mental fortitude over pretty much anything at this point.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, I think life is just that. I think sport is just that. I think you can always look at the what went wrong, or you can look at how you're going to respond to things that don't go your way. And I think it's the teams that that pride themselves on finding solutions instead of complaining about the problems will find a leg up against anyone, because everyone is always so quick to point out problems. And our jobs as coaches is to always find solutions. And hopefully we've imparted that, and it feels like we have with the group. And again, the way they attacked that game and the way they had the energy and the stamina and the drive at the end of last game speaks volumes about a team that's mentally tough.
Okay, I think I'll let you go. That'll do it.
Amazing.